Welcome to the 2024 NFL preview show of Your Best Bets. Football season's here, late August. You can kind of feel some of these mornings, the change in the air, some crisp mornings around Fort Wayne the last couple weeks. I got that feeling in football. It's in my bones. It's coming. So what better way to celebrate the upcoming season um, than to do a full-on 100% NFL preview show with two gentlemen that are cousins. They go way back. I go way back now with both of them. Johnny Strouser, of course, our regular guest is here. Johnny, how are you? Are you as excited about football as I am?
Well, after that little poetic, narrative there, that's like
Yeah,
Jim Nance there came coming out of your mouth there for a second. So,
like the
you know,
NFL Films
I,
guy.
I'm telling you, I
Yeah,
mean, that was beautiful. But yeah, I mean, I don't like the summer to end because that typically means the winding down of golf season and everything like that. But I can't wait. And there's three podcasts that we've done that I always look forward to is the Masters one, uh, the Ryder Cup one, and then when we get to talk about football because all of our teams don't have a losing record. So that's always the cool thing, and it's always great. And Brandon and I have always talked shop for hundreds of years here. As far as football, and I know you and I with the Bears and everything like that. So this is gonna be a fun night, fun show, and I hope that we can get a lot out of it.
Brandon Thornton is back. Brandon, I know he's been here a handful of times. It's been a while, so welcome back. I'm excited you're here.
Thanks for having me. It's excited to participate and give my takes on things, and
No,
hopefully add some value.
no poetic lines from you though. No poetry.
No, like fall's beautiful and all, but that also means I have to go back to work. So I'm not.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
bittersweet.
some of us have to work the whole year round.
Yeah,
So
and some of
you,
us have to manage tiny humans that scream at you. So
full credit to you. Full credit to you for taking that on. Guys, I was trying to figure out where to start here, and it's hard to do a full NFL preview, but I think the easiest way is just simply go division by division, talk about the storylines, over unders on wins, division odds, that kind of thing. So I think the easiest place to start for me and is the AFC East because just kind of go from the AFC to the NFC. The AFC East is interesting because we know the Patriots have had such a stranglehold on this division for 20 years or so, and 20 plus years really, and until the last couple of years, there's been some slippage. Belichick is now gone, and they are clearly there's a clear gap uh, between the top three and the Patriots at this point, and the odds reflect that. For this season, the Jets are the favorite in this division on DraftKings, co-favorites. I'm sorry, with the Buffalo Bills at plus 180, the Dolphins at plus 200, and the Patriots well behind at plus 2,500. Um, over under on wins, we got the Pats at 5.5. We have the Dolphins at 9.5, the Jets at 9.5, and the Bills at 10.5. Brandon, um, thoughts on this division? Uh, who do you like to take this? Anything else you like specifically from this division that stands out to you?
um, with this division, to me, there isn't a team that stands out between the Bills, Miami, and Jets. I think they're all neck and neck. They all have their extreme capabilities to do well, but there's that one question on all of them that can they do it? Like, can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? I mean, we saw what they were at that, and I don't know, like probably, but are there changes to the offensive line going to keep work out and hold them up? With the Bills, I do not trust their continuous turnover at the where they've lost their skill position with the wide receivers, and they have a new offensive defensive coordinator. And I think the Bills peaked when they had their original coaching group, and since those offensive coordinators and have been pulled off to other jobs, I think they've been slipping, and I question their ability. So I think if I'd like Miami to come out on top, but I think it's going to be probably the last week or two before it pans out.
Miami had a great season last year. They've had a great couple seasons under Mike McDaniel. Exciting offense, a bit exposed during the postseason at Kansas
Absolutely.
City, which is, about as tough a game as you would be asked to win, right? On the road,
Absolutely.
night game in Kansas City, and it's absolutely freezing. But yeah, they obviously Tua, he got paid. Tyreek's back. A lot of explosive playmakers. Waddle, A-Chain. I have some questions about their defense. I just have some questions about their toughness overall. Before I get to Johnny,
I do say I think their strength of schedule is like 24th, which is also going to help them.
Look at you. Look at you.
I know.
I'm so proud of you doing your research.
I know. I get a gold star for that one.
Here's what I think. I think the Jets have a top 5 roster in the NFL. I don't even know if that's arguable on both sides of the ball. There might be some questions about their offensive line, but their skill position guys are loaded. I really trust their defense. We know they have one of the best corners in the league and shutdown corner. I just think they have a really, really good roster. We know what the X factor is with the New York Jets. It's Aaron Rodgers and his health, right? There's just going to be a lot of unknowns as the season gets underway about how long can he hold up and what's that going to look like. I still think he can throw the football as well as anyone. It's just can he handle the load and the hits as they mount up through the season? I guarantee we'll get through more than half a quarter than we did last year with him. But that's where I'm at with the East. I think it runs through the Jets in my opinion, but that's also contingent on Rodgers. Johnny, where are you at with AFC East?
Yeah, I think it completely goes through how Aaron Rodgers, comes back from the Achilles injury and everything. Because, like you said, their roster is very, very good. And Robert Saleh won 7 games last year with probably the worst quarterback room in the league for the entire season. So, to be able to win 7 games based on that defense and having, who they've got there. And then, like you said, they got Sauce Gardner, who's going to be one of the premier, cornerbacks in this league for years to come. It's just whether Rodgers can come back and be just most of what he has been in the last, 2, 3, 4 years, and play at that high level there. But if you look at it, you look at the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills have a great quarterback in Josh Allen. They've always had a solid defense and everything, and they have, probably the best home field advantage in the National Football League. But it's still Josh Allen, as great as he is consistently bad in big time situations there. So, can they even make the playoffs, let alone win the division there? So I think Miami at plus 200 is actually a pretty good bet because they'll win a lot of home games and they'll probably win a lot of games early in the season when the weather's nice. But when it gets tougher out and everything, their speed gets nullified, and whether Tua is that guy. They're paying him as such, but whether he's that guy to lead them into these cold weather games and everything like that is a whole other story and a big question mark right there. So on my notepad here, when I was looking at him earlier, this is the toughest one for me to pick. I'd probably bet Jets, but at plus 200, the Dolphins are quite interesting. Since we're in that division there, like I said, I'd kind of fade in the Buffalo Bills this year. So I would probably play them under on their wins. And also, I think you can get them at plus money to miss the playoffs. So I think it's a very intriguing bet. And for me, it's probably something I'd end up playing.
All right. So Brandon likes the Dolphins. I like the Jets. And from what I gathered,
Jets.
I like the Jets, but also don't hate the Dolphins either.
Don't hate yeah.
Okay. I gotta tell you, I do hate the Patriots this year, and I would hammer the under on 5.5 wins.
Is it 5.5?
Yeah,
I'd go under on 5.
I thought it was 4.5, but yeah, 5.5. I think that's a pretty good bet there, even if there's some juice on that line. I don't think that roster can win 5 games this year.
No.
Yeah, and I think Drake May might be a guy, but he's not. He doesn't have enough around him this year to do much, except try to, just build some sort of foundation with Mayo and that crew as they move forward. A prop I really like. I think Garrett Wilson's going to be awesome this year as long as he can stay healthy. Again, and Aaron Rodgers can have some semblance of health, but I love Garrett Wilson. 1,250 receiving yards for Garrett Wilson's at plus 145. I really, really like that. I think he's going to be a monster. I really like Breece Hall. I really like their guys. So we'll see how that bears out in the East. I think that's going to be one of those divisions where it could be a coin flip between 3 teams. Moving to the AFC, let's go to the South. AFC South. Obviously, the Houston Texans, they are not going to sneak up on anyone this year like they did last year. They made the playoffs last year behind CJ Stroud. Maybe the best rookie quarterback season ever, arguably. Lost to the Ravens in the divisional round, but they added a lot in the offseason as well, offensively. So really, they should just be better on paper. They are the favorites at plus 105. The Jaguars are now at plus 275 with the Trevor Lawrence show there. Colts at plus 310 and the Titans at 10-1 for the South. Over under on wins. Colts are at 8.5. The Texans are only at 9.5. Jags are also at 8.5, and the Titans come in at 6.5. Johnny, I'll start with you with the AFC South. What do you like?
It's hard to not love the Texans and they acquired Stephon Diggs, so he's got a primary target there. And let me say this before we get into this division here. Brandon and I had numerous text message conversations on how much we love CJ Stroud prior to the draft. We both agreed that he was going to be that guy of that draft class. And so far, I mean, after one season, it's just a small sample size, but we both loved him. And we said that if he fell to Detroit, who had 6 at the time, not knowing how great Goff was going to be last season, but we would have both taken CJ Stroud there. But
in a heartbeat.
That was something that we had said a lot of times there, but I like them to win the division. They're coached very, very well by DeMeco Ryan. Like I said, that offense is really good, and Stroud, I think, is only going to get better. 9.5 wins. They feel like a 10 or 11 win team. I could see how there is some question on that because the Colts are pretty good when Richardson plays. When he was healthy last year, he seemed to be a very serviceable quarterback and a guy who could win him games. It's just, unfortunately his season ended too short there and whatnot. And the Jaguars are going to win games as well. I think if you don't like the plus 105 odds on the Texans, the Jags at plus 275 is a value bet, but I just think that the Texans are going to be a 10 or 11 win team, and the Jags will probably be that 9-8, just missing out on the playoffs.
Brandon, can the Colts or the Jaguars legitimately challenge the Texans for this division?
I think the Colts might have a shot. I know we got a small sample size with Anthony Richardson last year, but when he was in, he was balling out. That's why I do like, this is the one I warned you guys about. I think he's, what I saw when I looked at it was for 25 touchdowns at 550, plus 550. I would make that bet.
Is that passing touchdowns?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he would. I think that's a huge payout. I think, especially if the running back comes back healthy and stays healthy, and you have that ground game to support him, and he can stay healthy. Again.
Wait. Anthony Richardson, 25 or more touchdowns at plus 550.
Yeah.
Jesus, that seems like a low number for that. I know he only played 5 or 6 games, but Man, that's a pretty good
that was exactly my thought. I'm like,
Yeah.
like that seems too good to be true.
It seems like a great play. I just wrote it down. Yeah, and you know what? Somewhat, it's a bit like his rookie season, because what did he play? What, 5 games, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
and their schedule is the 22nd. Go ahead.
You are the schedule strength guru tonight. I like that we got that.
I do. Well, yeah,
but it does matter.
The 22nd.
It does matter.
It does. And you have the Texans has the 5th hardest and the Jaguars with the 9th hardest. So the Colts have an exceptionally easier schedule based off last year's performance. So I think you have that going in their favor. I still like the Texans to win the division, but I think it's going to be pretty close. I think the Jaguars could challenge, but again, I don't know. Like they're tough to the consistency with that team. Are they going to take that next step and to where they can pass that 500 record? Because they're absolutely not going to sneak up on anybody. Everyone's going to be very prepared for them, and they can get shut down pretty easy. So, and the Titans, I don't think are going to be good.
Guys, I don't even know who's coaching. I don't even know who's coaching the Titans.
I don't know. It's not Mike Vrabel, so it doesn't. It's going to be the
insane.
under. It's going to be the under on what 5.5 or whatever it is.
No, they're at 6.5 is what he said.
Okay, even so, take the under. That's a nuke for me.
Because they only won 6 last year, so yeah.
I agree. I don't think Will Levis is it, so I think that's a failed Will Levis situation for sure. I'm a little surprised the Texans number isn't over under at 10.5. So I think you almost have to hammer the over. Based off of what they did last year and the moves they made in the offseason. Stephon Diggs is a clear add. He's not the guy he was 2 or 3 years ago in Buffalo, but clearly going to add to that passing offense and make it super dynamic, even more than it was.
But he does have some other talent to take the load off of him that actually has had track record of being proven. Whereas last couple of years, or at least last year, he didn't have any other receivers to take the load off him and the focus off him. So I think you could see a rebound in his statistics.
Upgrade at running back. I think a clear upgrade at running back, getting Joe Mixon compared to Devin Singletary, who has just destroyed me in fantasy football for years. And then the 1 year he has a reasonable year, last year it was nowhere to be found. But a clear upgrade in the running game. So I don't see how the Texans don't win the division, but I also know how the NFL works. Here's a question for you guys. Are we sure Trevor Lawrence is good?
I don't know if he is.
Okay.
That's my feeling. Like, he shows the flashes, but do you trust him?
Yeah, is he like the 13th best quarterback in the league? Somewhere around there, right? Does that sound about right to you, Johnny?
Yeah, you know what? There's nothing like when your team plays the Jags or you've got a matchup, that you're betting or something like that. You're not like, oh my God, they got Trevor Lawrence. Play, careful against that spread because it just isn't like that. It's just they're well coached with Doug Peterson and they've got other parts and everything like that. But you're not like, you're not really like looking at it and being like, oh my God, they got Trevor Lawrence. And like I was looking at his passing numbers and everything, and I don't remember what it is because I was looking at it earlier and don't remember, but it wasn't a very memorable number, and it's not one that I really wanna play like a couple other guys in the division. I like CJ Stroud over 4,150 passing yards. I know it's a big number, but I like that one. I like Anthony Richardson's over 550 rushing yards. I like Michael Pittman's over 950 receiving yards. But nothing as far as the Jags, at least with the quarterback situation that really, was blowing me away with anything.
How do you guys feel about Diggs going over 1,000? I think it's at 140.
I wouldn't bet it. I don't mind it because if I bet Stroud over on his passing, somebody's got to catch the ball. But I don't know, it's just him. I think Stroud's not gonna I mean, I think he's going to kind of feed it all over the place. So it's a number. It's kind of with Stefan Diggs, he's kind of would be a moodier guy as well. And now, a little bit older, new team. It's a stay away bet for me, just because you don't know how him and Stroud are gonna mesh as far as right off the bat.
Yeah, it's tough because when you have a passing attack where he's not going to be the top guy, it's going to be Nico Collins, I expect, and Tank Dell's in the mix. They throw the tight end a lot. It's that would be a stay away for me. It could go either way though. What way to take the middle, Phil? That's what I do best.
Yeah.
But one of these Jaguars or Colts are going to push the Texans. I don't know which one. I can't really tell you which one, but I kind of like the Colts coaching staff. I like Steichen. I like
Steichen
what
is
I think he's good, and I think the scheme with Richardson could be really good. And they still have Jonathan Taylor, who 2 years ago was the best running back in the league. So I do think there is something there with the Colts, but I just don't know if I can legitimately bet them to win the division or see them winning the division. Let's move on. AFC North. This is a really good division. Really good division.
Yeah.
There's only one division I think is better than this division, and we'll talk about that one later. The Cincinnati Bengals on DraftKings are the favorite at plus 140. The Ravens are right behind them at plus 145, and I was a little surprised at that. The Browns are at 6-1 to win the North, and the Steelers at 8-1. I think there's a legitimate play that 3 teams could make the playoffs in the AFC out of this division. I don't think that would really surprise anyone. Wins, over/under wins on the Cincinnati Bengals, 10.5. Cleveland Browns are at 8.5. The Ravens, I have multiple papers. Ravens are at 11.5, and the Steelers are at 7.5. Brandon, what do you like in the North?
Well, 7.5 for the Steelers. I would take the over because Tomlinson's going to finish 500 or better. So,
usually does,
historically speaking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, but it just happens. So
it's always like the product looks terrible. You don't know who's playing quarterback, but they're always 8-9 or 9-8.
Right, and I think so I would take the over on that. But I think you have to go with the Ravens for this division. To take it, the Bengals get a lot of love every year, but they consistently underperform, whether it's injuries or what. And then they also lost their number 3 wide receiver, who was their safety, who has played an integral role when everybody was out or injured, or just as you can't cover all the guys, and he was still a guy. So I think that's going to be a big hit on their offense as well. They also lost a lot of talent on defense. So I don't like the Bengals to win it at all. The only thing in their favor is Ravens have a much more difficult schedule. It's the second most difficult schedule. Bengals are middle of the pack, so that could give them the bunch to challenge, but I still think the Ravens walk away from it. The Browns, I have no idea how they're going to finish. I have a bad feeling about them. And I don't know if that's because they're also going to run the table or if it's just they're going to underperform. I don't have an explanation for it. I just have.
In a way, the Browns.
Oh, and they have the most difficult schedule of the league too.
The Browns do.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
You would think it would be a team with a first place schedule like the Ravens.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. The Browns remind me a little bit of the Jets. I think the Browns have a top 3rd roster in the league. It comes back to quarterback with them as well, similar to the Jets. It's a different story with the Browns with their quarterback versus the Jets quarterback, but I don't want to ruin. I don't.
Both are crazy.
Yeah, in their own way. I don't want to. I don't want to ruin. I don't want to ruin my buy or sell segment for later. But one of my one of my buy or sell questions refers to the Browns quarterback. So we'll get to him later. But I I I can't go against the Ravens and John Harbaugh in this
Yeah.
division. They added Derrick Henry, who I know is old and has a ton of miles, but I think he has enough left to make a real impact this season. I mean, what the Ravens running backs the last couple of years, Gus Edwards, you know, with all the injuries they've had, he's their main running back. Take some take some of the pressure off Lamar. Um, there's always that question with the skill players around Lamar, but Andrews is one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. Um, they got a young receiver, Zay Flowers, who I think is going to be really good this year as well. So I think they'll have enough with what they do. They just more than any other team, maybe except the Chiefs. The Ravens just know who they are. They know their identity, and they play to their strengths
Well,
every
I mean,
year.
exactly. And think about trying to defend the option. Like, who do you cover, Henry or Lamar? Like, neither is like to have to account for one of those guys in the run game is difficult. To account for two, they're just going to destroy people.
It's a true lightning and or thunder and lightning situation with those two. If those the read option if they employ that this year. So I do like the Ravens to win this division. I don't dislike the Bengals. I don't. I've never really loved their head coach Zach Taylor, but he's obviously effective. I love Joe Burrow. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I just think he's just an awesome football player, and I would trust him in almost any situation. So I think both those teams make the playoffs, but I like the Ravens to win the division. Johnny.
You could make a case, or I can make a case, or anybody can make a case for 3 teams. I think 6-1 on the Browns is extremely good value. I mean, I think they should be more like plus 300, plus 275. I mean, they're that high because of 2 very, very good teams ahead of them and everything. But if you get a full season of Deshaun Watson with that defense, they can win. They can win a lot of games and somehow luck into a division title. So, I guess especially if Nick Chubb comes back, and I don't know what his prognosis is, but I heard he's going to be back at some point this season. But again, it does depend on if Watson ends up playing there. So that's like a really good kind of home run bet. If you're playing like a parlay where you parlay a bunch of division winners, that might be one just with a small investment because you just never know there. As far as winning the division, I'm going to have to agree. John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson are going to win a whole bunch of games, and that's just what they're going to do. That's what they've always done, is just win a whole bunch of games, which is why I think I've got to end up betting them to win the division. But I'm not fading Joe Burrow ever. I shouldn't say that. There's only one other quarterback in the National Football League that I would fade him against. But other than that, though,
Caleb.
Possibly.
Figured.
But they have some questions. With the offensive line is thin for the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got wide receivers that are unhappy. So we'll see kind of how that plays out and whatnot. But I'd like the Bengals to win a lot of games. But I just think the importance that the Ravens place on winning regular season games and getting home field and trying to get that 1 or 2 seed is just far, far greater than what the Bengals will end up doing there. So I think if I had to bet it, I would probably bet the Ravens, but I don't love the number either way. Like if I was betting on anything, I'm gonna go Browns just because of that number.
Okay. So Browns over under 8.5. You sounds like you would side.
I like the over. Yeah. I like the over, but this is putting all of my eggs in the Deshaun Watson basket there, that he is going to be interested for 17 games and be healthy for most of those. So it doesn't seem like neither that since he's become a member of the Cleveland Browns, that's been the thing. So, I say that, but you could also fade his passing number. I think his passing number was like 3,600 yards or something like that. I mean, we only play 8 or 9 games, so you kind of play with fire there, and I think that's kind of why the number is actually Deshaun Watson is 3,300 and a half yards. Either I'm all in, I'm betting the over on that, or I'm all out on him and I'm betting them to miss the playoffs and on that. But they also don't have Joe Flacco as the backup, who is Joe Flacco's not good anymore, but he's an extremely backup quarterback, and I don't even know who's the guy behind him. So,
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's
I love
a hot mess
Jameis.
express.
I love Jameis.
I'm
going to root.
It's our guy.
Oh, Jameis.
Yeah.
Oh man, be still my heart knowing he's the backup. So yeah, that's my thought on that though. But I mean, two really good teams, and it's kind of one and the other. But I look at a guy who just Lamar in the regular season, I'll take him. Joe Burrow in anything else, except for one other quarterback, maybe named Caleb. I'm taking Joe Burrow.
I think so. The Ravens are at 11.5. I like them to win the division, but I would like them under still. I think it's too big of a number. I just think
I see 11-5.
Yeah, I just think 11-6.
11-6. I'm sorry.
Got to add that extra game there, friend. But yeah, I just think the AFC North is traditionally fairly tight. These games are gross. They're ugly. The worst team's always around 500. It feels like 2 or 3 teams around 500. So I do like the Ravens to win, but I like they're under at 11.5. And I'd probably hit the Steelers under. I'll go against Brandon 7.5. I think they're a disaster at quarterback. And they don't have an answer. And we'll talk about Russ a little bit in my buy sell too. But if it's Russ, if it's Justin, it's just not. It doesn't look like it's going to go great at that position for them.
Does it change your opinion if 49ers ever give up on Ayuk?
No, not really. No, I mean that's obviously a bonus for them. But I saw Russ. I saw a lot of fields, and I do love Justin as a player, as a kid, as a leader, but just as a football or as a quarterback that has to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. That's where his deficiencies lie, and he's just quick to use his feet, and it's explosive and it's awesome. But I just don't know if it's sustainable over a season where you're gonna have to make a 3rd and 12 here and there, and just can never do it. Sorry, Tim. I know you're going to be listening to this, and it's your boy, but and Russ is cooked. Russ has been cooked. It's over. Some quarterbacks they can extend, they can get there they can play when they're 40. Like Brady and Rodgers are doing. The other guys, it's just you wake up one day and it is gone. And I just think it is gone with Russ.
I can't argue with you there.
But I do think it's going to be a good division, fun division, competitive. I think it should be super close. Last division in the AFC is the one that is the most foregone conclusion, I believe, in all 8 divisions, and I'm sure you guys don't disagree. The 2-time defending champs at minus 230 to win the AFC West. The Chargers are at plus 320. The Raiders are at 9-1, and the Broncos are at 18-1. The Broncos over/under is at 5.5. The Chargers are at 8.5. The Raiders 6.5, and the Chiefs are at 11.5. Johnny, we know you like the Chiefs to win the division. Is there even? There's probably no reason to place a division bet in this division. What about wins over/unders? You like anything specifically?
So I talked a second about parlays. I think this one's a pretty confident leg here that you can add Chiefs and another team that you may not love the number at, and you could get that at a pretty good number there. So I think there is value in betting the Chiefs. The Chargers are going to be good here in a year or two. They just don't have good enough players right now. Jim Harbaugh is an elite head coach, and once he gets that roster kind of turned like he wants it to. Justin Herbert is I think he's elite or borderline. Eventually, once he's got a good football coach that's coaching him. So I'll be excited to see how those guys go, going forward there. But I used to a couple years ago I bet the Chiefs on the under for the wins, and maybe it was last season, and they ended up burning me because I think they ended up winning 12 games one of the seasons there, and they were like at 11 and a half there. So I don't really like that number there. Um, the Broncos, I'll be curious on what both of you guys think because Bo Nix, you know, has been okay, and I don't think Sean Payton's actually that good of a coach. Maybe he was 10 years ago when he had Drew Brees. But
Shots fired.
Jesus.
these guys who sit in the broadcast booth for a few
I thought
years,
I was going to be the bold one.
no, I think these coaches that they kind of just lose touch with things, and it's just my way or the highway type of stuff, and they just lack the draft picks and everything like that. But maybe if he ends up starting the whole season and they find something like that. But like with the Chiefs, as far as the player bets, I love Pacheco this season. I think they're gonna run him rampant, and I think you like him to go over on his yards. I like Travis Kelce to go under because I think they're just trying to limit on what he does, because he's such a dynamic player in the run game and everything like that. And I don't know why this just came to my head here. I like to tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it one time that it said Isaiah Pacheco runs like he bites people. It's just the best. I always think about that now, and it's just rent free in my head. But anyways,
He runs so hard.
I know he does. I like it, and I think he's going to run for. I think he's going to score a lot of touchdowns, and I think he's going to run for a lot of yards, just because that's just how the Chiefs are going to kind of model their offense this year. And I don't really like to bet anything against Pat Mahomes, as far as the passing yards and everything. But there could be the case. 4,350 passing yards. That's quite a bit. And he doesn't have much for receiving. He doesn't have that elite guy. But with that, and then the Raiders, I think are just there. I just think they're there. Like Brock Bowers is a guy I love at tight end. He could have a Sam Laporta year where he gets a lot of attempts and everything up, but Minshew and O'Connell thrown to him just that doesn't do that much, and I just think that I don't know, but they're I kind of liked what they did with coaching and everything, so they could end up winning some games. But it's one of those teams that you just kind of stay away from, like the bad teams. You think you can kind of sneak in and say, I'll play their under on wins, and then they just or play their over on wins if it's only like 4.5 or 5.5, and then they end up just shitting together some wins and late in the season or something like that and killing your bet there. So I think that's kind of a stay away for me.
I'm gonna pass it to Brandon. I have a couple takes on some things you said, but I'm gonna get Brandon's take on his thoughts on the West first. Brandon, what do you got?
Yeah, Chiefs are going to win the division. I think with their schedule and with where they're at,
that's a good start.
It is. It's not my strong suit, but I give it a go. I think would I bet minus 230 or would I bet the over on 11.5? That's where I'd take it. But again, I don't know that it's a safe bet. But their schedule's middle of the road or middle-ish of the road for strength. I would probably go over on that for them to take the division. I think Denver is going to be a mess. Maybe they get around 500, but I think that would be. I wouldn't confidently take the 5.5 at all. Yeah. I do like. I would take the over on the Raiders. I really liked what Pierce was doing. Right, it's Pierce is their coach, right?
Yeah, Antonio Pierce. Yeah.
I really liked what he was doing and how he got him to gel. He seemed to get buy-in from the players, and then on top of that, I think they got their offensive coordinator is from the Bears who said great running games. So I think he could do some really good things with White, who performed really well after Jacobs was out at the end of the year. So if you have a run-heavy offense and the defense buys in like they did with Pierce, I think getting back to that 7-8 win is realistic for the Raiders. San Diego,
LA.
sorry, yeah, still San Diego in my
It'll
heart.
always be San Diego to us,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a question of how much of the guys that Harbaugh wants does he have, and can he get that out of them? I think that 8.5 is probably. I wouldn't take that bet at all, because I think it's too unpredictable and be right around there. I think they'll be 500. It just depends on, can he get his players in there to do the jobs he wants, and keep him engaged long enough to do the things that he wants the way he wants to do it.
I'm really siding with Brandon on a couple of these. Surprisingly, I know Johnny well, specifically from this division, I know Johnny shit kicked the Raiders pretty hard, but I actually don't think they're going to be terrible. I actually like them over 6.5. You want to talk about Minshew? I didn't, again, not to go back to Trevor Lawrence, but when he came in for Trevor Lawrence and when Lawrence was hurt, I didn't see much of a difference. I didn't see much of a drop off. Last year with the Colts, Minshew did get him to the playoffs. I think he's fine. He's like the 19th best quarterback in the league, which isn't great for your team, but he's gonna keep you in a lot of games. And I like their skill guys. I think Brock Bowers is going to be awesome. I think their offensive line is at least reasonable. I think their the defensive line is going to be really, really good. They got Christian Wilkinson from Miami, who's one of the best D tackles in the league, and that's going to free up Max Crosby to be a fucking maniac. I'm going to place one defensive player of the year bet, and it's going to be Max Crosby at 7-1. I just have a feeling he's going to be awesome this year. So and like you mentioned, Brandon, I like Pierce. I think he's a good leader. I think he's just one of those guys that's kind of the rah-rah motivator type of guy, like a Tomlin, and I just like him. Also, maybe my favorite over-under win bet of the whole league is the Chargers under 8.5. I couldn't believe it was that high. I just do not see it. I love Harbaugh. I think he'll get them there in time, but I think this is going to be a season where he just tries to lay a foundation and get guys out that can't play for him. I do have a question about Justin Herbert. Is he Jay Cutler 2.0? I don't think he is, but I also don't know for sure he's not.
I was going to say he's a young Matt Stafford.
Well, I think we had this conversation years ago about Stafford.
Yes, we did.
And Stafford clearly grew out of that Cutler comparison. But for right now, Herbert, he is unbelievably gifted. Makes as many spectacular throws as anyone in the league. But I just don't know if I trust him to win a game that I would need to win for my team.
And Stafford, coaching staff around him, and sometimes he has skills, but then he doesn't have a defense or he doesn't have a running game. And that basically describes Stafford's early career in Detroit.
Well, he's had a dog shit coaching. I mean,
right.
Brandon Staley was at the coach.
Brandon Staley was bad. Yeah.
He was bad. He was legitimately bad. So you're right though, is there could be question marks. He could turn into just being an average dude who makes a lot of money and throws a pretty ball. And I agree with you, but the best thing probably the best hire was the Chargers hiring Harbaugh, which is absolutely putting Herbert in the best possible position to be good. So,
because Harbaugh's going to run it 50 times a game.
And who's your running back? Because it's not Eckler. Who is it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know who the running back is. I only know one of the receivers. I know it's Josh Palmer. He's their number one. And that doesn't give me a ton of confidence.
Yeah, Josh Palmer.
Because they got Quentin Johnson, but he is not necessarily panning out as an NFL receiver.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
does it say?
That's the thing is it's just going to take a while for them for him to get those players in there that
Oh yeah, and their top two guys are injured.
Gus Edwards
and Dobbins,
J.K. Dobbins. So this is like Baltimore Ravens right here.
So they're
DJ Chark, Josh Palmer, Quentin Davis.
It's
Will Dissly,
Vidal, Jarrett Patterson.
Yeah, it's maybe the worst collection of skill players in the league.
Yeah.
So you got this top 5 elite quarterback, at least talent wise, and you don't have a lot around him this year. So I cannot see any world where they're going to win more than 7
You don't see 9 games?
No, I don't even know if they're going to get. I might take the alternate under on the Chargers.
Ooh. Do it.
Like under 5.5. Like I just
because they're going to lose.
Still see a path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We talked more about the AFC West than I expected to, but I do think there is something there with a couple of these teams. Middle of the show, I want to throw buy or sell out there. Before we get to the NFC preview, and Brandon, a little bit of insight to buy or sell. We do this segment, and I wish there was a drop, like a sound effect when my friend Josh edits the show. Like he could drop in like a buy or sell, like little sound effect. But we do this for our golf shows, usually during the majors. I'll throw some buy or sells out there for Johnny and our friend Zach, and they'll answer them, and I'll chime in too. But need you to take a stance and take a side on this, and we need to hear your reason why. Could be a short answer, probably
usually 1 to 2 sentences.
I got 6 of them here.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the couple that were in the AFC. Aaron Rodgers will start and play in over 10.5 games this season. Buy or sell? Johnny.
I'm going to buy that. I think he's going to – I think he'll be healthy for most of the season. He'll protect himself, and they'll protect him.
Brandon.
I'll buy that. Absolutely. He's going to – there was a couple years when he was up playing for the Packers where he was coming off an injury or something like that, and he just didn't play the same. He protected his body, and I think absolutely he's going to do the same thing. He's going to avoid contact at all costs so he can play more games.
Okay, sweet. I agree. I think they're going to lean a lot on Breece Hall, top 5 running back, and that defense. And I don't really trust their coach at all. But I think the talent prevails. I think the Jets are in the playoffs. I think Rodgers has a good season. Buy or sell? And I'm gonna, after I give this one, I'm gonna give a comparison to a buy or sell I've done for golf. Josh Allen's best chance to ever play in a Super Bowl has already come and gone. Brandon.
I'll buy that.
So you just think that window is closed for him and the Bills?
I do. Because I know he's young, but I think his best for this with the Bills and this coaching staff while he's young, I think it's absolutely past. I think maybe he might have a late season chance, whether it's with the Bills or not, but I think it was his best chance. I think it's gone.
Johnny, what does this question remind you of?
This is
from a golf standpoint.
This is
the we've already seen the best golf from Rory, Jordan Spieth,
Rory,
Justin Thomas. Yeah. What's your play? Buy or sell on that?
Oh, I'll back up the Brinks truck on this one. In Buffalo, he's not gonna win a Super Bowl. His only hope is that, I mean, if they have a coaching change and a philosophical change, maybe, but it'll have to be not under Sean McDermott. And I don't think they have any, they may not want to get rid of him or whatever, but he's got to get traded or signed with a different team. Not to say that he can't win one. because it's possible, but I think he's going to be one of those guys who just never wins a Super Bowl.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a buy. I think that window started closing when they that 11-second game in the against the Chiefs when they had the lead and they couldn't hold on to a 3-point lead with 11 seconds left. And now they're almost feeling like a semi rebuild this year. And NFL windows are tough, man.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a 2-year window, unless you're the Chiefs or the Patriots or some of these teams that can really figure it out. It's different than the NBA where superstars can really just run the league and they can build these teams around them and get guys. It's just the NFL doesn't work that way. So yeah, this window, I feel like it's already closed on him and the Bills. 2024 will be Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson's last seasons as starting quarterbacks in the league. Buy or sell? It's a bit of a two-parter, Johnny.
I'm gonna sell that question there because I think Watson is still going to somehow be a starting quarterback in this league. Russell Wilson, yeah, like you had mentioned, a few minutes earlier here that some guys just lose it and then they just can't get it back, and that appears to be the case with him. But I think Watson, the intrigue with his age is just there's just too much potential that NFL GMs are going to see, even if it's not with the Browns.
Yeah. Brandon.
So
Big
will this be
sigh.
their last? Will this be their last starting year
Mhm.
as a starter?
Yep.
Deshaun Watson's, even if the Browns cut him, some other team is going to bring him in just because the talent they're going to say, I can fix him, I can get it out of him. So it makes me lean sell. I'm going to have to go sell. Like, there's a part of me that says Russ is going to get one more season, but it might be because he comes in as the backup or whatever, and I think he's going to get one more season. I'm not going to say he's going to be good. I'm just going to say he's going to get one more starting season.
And
yeah. So maybe I'm a buy then, I guess, or no, sell.
Yeah. Selling on both. Okay.
Yeah.
I would buy on Russ and sell on Deshaun. But similar to Johnny, you remember how good Deshaun was? That I mean,
unbelievable in Houston.
Unbelievable. I mean, the year that they blew the huge playoff lead to KC, but even the year after when they were like 5-11, and he was single-handedly. I mean, he was like 4,500 yards. I mean, it was insane. One of these situations where like a personal off the field thing has just totally derailed his play on the field, where you watch him now and he looks like a totally different guy. It's pretty incredible to watch him now compared to 3 or 4 years ago, where he was one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league. And he's not old. It's not an age thing.
Well, if you look at it, he played great and everything, and then when we found out that he was a shitbag, and they wanted to trade him and everything, he got suspended, and then when they traded him to the Browns on the condition that he'd sign a deal, and he didn't want to go up there to sign with the Browns, and then the Browns gave him 225 guaranteed million, and then he was like, what, I'd love to go to the Browns. That's a character telling me, I think, anyways. If he's balking at it, at first, and then these character issues arise and whatnot, it's like, what, you can't invest all that money into somebody because there's a chance he doesn't want to be there. Now, did we know that he's gonna, if he feels the slightest twinge in his elbow or shoulder or something like that he was gonna sit out and not play? He didn't know it was gonna be that extreme, but I mean, it's guaranteed money, so he's just kind of quiet quitting, until he gets his next contract.
I'm sorry.
We lost Brandon. We're going to continue. We'll continue on. Maybe we'll catch him up here. Buy or sell, 3 NFC questions. There he is. He's back. This will be Dak Prescott's. That's okay. I'm going to restart here, Brandon. This will be Dak Prescott's final season as a Cowboy. Buy or sell? Got it.
Asking me or John?
Johnny, did you hear me?
Oh, you're asking me? Okay.
I was like, do we have an internet issue there?
No, I'm buying that. I think I think they're going to part ways. I think it's going to be another good season, and then, but not a great season, and they're not going to get where they want to be. And he's at the point where it's going to be, 55 to $60 million a season in the cap hit and everything. So they're going to kind of get out of that. So then you see, maybe Deshaun Watson goes down there. Maybe there's a path where they can get a Josh Allen, a Deshaun Watson, or something like that if it's not going to work out with a team there. But yes, I'm buying that it's not that this is going to be his last season in Dallas.
Okay, Brandon.
Yeah. I don't think Jerry lets Dak go. I think he gets rid of the coach. So I think he keeps Dak, but I think it's probably a 1-year deal or something like that, something stupid. I don't, or was he franchised last year?
No, he signed an extension, and this is the last of the guaranteed years.
Right.
So either he's going to be a free agent, I think, or they've got to sign. Well, I don't know if they can franchise him.
Yeah,
maybe they can.
I know they're talking. They're talking right now, but it's not.
Yeah.
He is eligible to be franchised.
It sounds like. I mean, it sounds like the extension isn't going to get done before the season. So I don't. Some teams just stop talking once season starts. Other teams,
right.
They all do it different.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and the Jerry factor comes into this. Like, what is he going to do? Like, he's older and crankier. I think I sell. I think he stays.
Yeah, I was torn on this one when I came up with it. I think he stays too, because Jerry does seem to have allegiance towards guys, maybe when he shouldn't. Like the McCarthy thing was really weird when everyone thought he was going to get fired, and especially after the disaster of a playoff game last year, and he brought him back. And so I do think there's this allegiance that Jerry Jones has to Dak, and I think we all know his weaknesses, and it seems like he can overlook that. And I agree with you, Brandon. It might be a 2-3 year deal, something like that, a little shorter, nothing long term. Question 5: the Atlanta Falcons are the hype team that will fall flat in 2024. Okay, so there's some hype. There's some hype teams coming into this year. And the AFC, I do think the Jets are one of them. And the NFC, I think it's the Falcons. And I hate to say it, it's the Bears. That's the 3 that I could think of that have a lot of hype. The hype train's strong. But the Falcons specifically, Brandon, buy or sell? Are they gonna be able to handle all that?
I think yes. I think they'll handle it. I do not think they'll fall flat. So would that be sell?
Yes. Good deductive reasoning there.
Let me get there. Carry the one.
Kirk Cousins, and this will obviously morph into the NFC South preview, but Kirk Cousins running this show with a lot of skill around him, coming off a major injury. Johnny, where are you at with the Falcons? Buy or sell?
I'm gonna buy them as being a flop. That was gonna be one of my picks is I know they're juiced to win the South Division at like minus 130 or something like that right now, and I don't like them to make the playoffs. I don't like them to win as whatever amount of games that the books say. They've got some guys, Bijan Robinson, and the receivers are what Drake London and Mooney, and Kyle Pitts at tight end. So they've got guys. It's just with the coaching change, it's going to take a little bit there, and I just don't trust Kirk Cousins to win a whole bunch of games. this upcoming season. I kind of hope he does, because I like the guy. I think he's just kind of a interesting character in the NFL these days and whatnot. But I just don't think that they're gonna be one of the teams that's gonna end up just disappointing and falling short. So, like, I think they're plus 170 to miss the playoffs. I mean, yes, I will gladly take that bet. To come under their wins and not make the playoffs.
Okay. Did you guys watch Quarterback on Netflix?
No, but I did watch Wide Receiver.
Okay. I never expect Johnny to watch anything on movies, TV shows, streaming, anything. So
he just says he's going to put it on his list, and that's the end of it.
I think I told him.
Hang on, let me write it on my list.
It was like a movie 15 years ago, and I'm confident he never really got to it. But Quarterback on Netflix really flipped my opinion on Kirk Cousins. I mean, and I've talked to other people that watched it, and they all agreed. I had an opinion of Kirk Cousins, and then I watched the show, and I kind of liked him, and I had like a bunch of respect for him because the season where he filmed it, he got the shit beat out of him, and he kept coming back, and he kept coming back, and it was a season they lost to the Giants in the playoffs when they were upset. Daniel Jones went off on him, but I mean, it was game after game where this guy it looked like he was just going to be in a wheelchair. Anyways, so I do have respect for Kirk Cousins. I do think he was playing great when he tore his Achilles. So I do like him in this position, but I think overall I would buy them to fall flat in 24 as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Thank you. We'll talk about a little bit the South preview. Last question, and this is not a great buy or sell question, but I wrote it down anyways. With Sam Darnold starting now with McCarthy's injury, JJ Justin Jefferson will see little downtrend in his production in 24. Buy or sell, Johnny?
I'm selling that. I think that's actually going to be the better thing for him. I think JJ McCarthy is going to. He has the potential to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but it wasn't going to be this year if he was going to end up starting. I don't think Sam Darnold is that good anyways, but guys who've been in the NFL, for this number of years, you just kind of through practice reps, you become a decent quarterback. So, his production was not, 1,350 yards, I think it was his over under there. I don't see a problem with him getting that just because the dude catches everything. And, with McCarthy, with him getting injured this, middle of training camp and everything, there's going to be enough reps that Darnold's going to have with Jefferson there that I don't see a problem with them kind of linking up through early in the season where he could put up his numbers.
Yep. Where you lie on that one, Brandon?
I buy. I think he's absolutely going to have a regression. I don't trust Sam Darnold at all. Like, he was bad, and then he was bad again at this next stop. He was bad again at the next stop. Like his high draft stock is why he's still a backup quarterback. Like, I absolutely don't see it at all.
So you think because of just his ineffectiveness, Jefferson's going to have a little bit of a down
absolutely.
Year? Okay.
Absolutely. Like, might he have a game where he goes off for Jefferson randomly goes off for 120, 150 yards? Absolutely, because he's that crazy of an athlete. And if your defense just loses track of him, even the worst NFL quarterback can throw a long bomb that Jefferson can run under, or wait for, whichever,
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, are they going to win a few games that they shouldn't? Absolutely. But he's going to have a regression. Is he still going to get 1,000 yards? Maybe, but I still think it's going to be, it's not going to result in W's.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you on Darnold being an absolute train wreck. I don't think there's anything there that you can dispute. I think he's going to have a fine season. I do. Jefferson will. In fact, I actually would prefer Darnold is a train wreck so badly that they throw in Nick Mullins, and I would trust Nick Mullins, and I think he will get some play. That dude will sling it, and I mean he might throw 3 picks in a game, 3-4 picks, but Jefferson will get his yards. So that's where I'm at with Jefferson. He'll figure it out with these just utter disasters of quarterbacks that he'll be playing with this year. I did draft him in my first round of my fantasy league with my work buddies, so I took a chance at number 9 on him. Buy or sell is now closed. Appreciate Brandon your inception into that process. Johnny's a veteran in buy or sell. But you handled it very well. NFC, which I think is deeper in a way than the AFC. As far as teams at the top, we'll talk about that. We might be talking about a 3-team race for the NFC championship, but interested in your guys' take to see if I'm missing anyone along the way. NFC East. Philly has kind of run this division, and with Dallas right alongside him for the last couple seasons. The Eagles are at -120 to win the East. The Cowboys are at +160, and then there's a pretty large gap to the Commanders at 9-1 and the Giants at 20-1. Over unders, we're talking 10.5 for Dallas. The Giants are at 6.5. The Eagles are also at 10.5, and the Commanders are at 6.5. Brandon, what's your take on this division? There's a question there. But go ahead.
I hate looking at this division. I don't trust any of the teams. I think Eagles have a pretty easy schedule, so I think that's going to give them the division. I think that's where I'd go with that. But relative to the rest of the division, but I know it sounds weird, but the drama and the smoke coming between the quarterback and the head coach, if those every time I hear anything like that, it scares me for the long-term viability of the team for winning close games or doing anything in the playoffs. So that really, like those conversations that come out, that scares me away from anything, always. So I think I would take, there's not a good bet. I think I'd take under on the 10.5 for Cowboys. I think they'll be 500. And
I agree with that.
I think I would take I'm going to take the under on the 6.5 with the Giants. And I don't know, that's 6.5 is high for Washington. I think they'll get there, but I don't know that it's something I'd bet money on. I'm not that certain.
Okay. It's hard to have a lot of conviction about any of the top 2 teams. It feels like the Cowboys have some deficiencies, and right now they have their top receiver that is in a contract dispute. They don't really have a lot of depth at receiver. Their running backs are either
Zeke.
Old,
they brought back Zeke.
They're either old or unknown, and there's some questions on the offensive line too. It's not the Cowboys' offensive line, stout offensive line that we're used to. But then the Eagles, there's some questions there too. That team had a huge regression in the second half of the season last year. ugly loss.
Did
to
you
the
see
Bucs.
they did just get Dotson from Washington?
They did. And I was going to
So
mention that they did fill a bit of a hole there behind their two receivers who are outstanding. Um,
right.
ugly loss to the Bucs in the playoffs, though. Kind of ended that slog of a second half of the season. So there's questions about the Eagles as well. Before I make a call, I'll see what Johnny thinks. Eagles, Cowboys to win this division.
I think it is a little bit interesting, but I like the Eagles in the end. The turmoil that there seemed to be a rift between Sirianni and Hurts towards the end of the season. I think that is very, very legit. But they've had an off season away, and they're both professionals, and it seems like both are high character guys. So I think they'll end up putting that behind them, and they still have most of that offensive line that they're going to bring back, which I think is huge. And in the NFL, you've got to have a good offensive line there. But they've added the right type of players, and I think they're going to still be a really good team. And Hurts behind that offensive line is still gonna put up good numbers. They're going to be able to run the ball pretty well, and they're going to win a lot of football games. And minus 120 to win the division. I don't love the number, but I talked about parlaying, and that's something where I would parlay with either the Chiefs to get it into plus odds or the Texans to get that good number there. But the Cowboys, they've got the holes, like you said. Is CeeDee Lamb is he gonna play week one? I mean, is he gonna sit out, or is he waiting for that contract, which the Cowboys seem to be in no hurry of signing him to? And yeah, Zeke Elliott is your feature back. So 10.5 wins, that doesn't seem like that's a very, very good number. They don't lose a lot of games at Cowboy Stadium, but um, I do like their under because they're
Playoff
just
game.
not that same team. What's that?
So unless it's a home playoff game, then they do.
Unless it's a home play. Yes, they're not going to win that game. But yeah, I mean, in the end, I think it is Philly. The Giants, I think, can win some games, but you never know. Daniel Jones could be halfway decent, or he could be terrible just the following week, and it's just real hard to look at. I actually liked the one of the books had Daniel Jones at like 2,600 passing yards for the year, and you basically got to play like 11 or
Wow.
12 games to get
Jeez.
that number. And I was like, if he if they don't bench him, he's going to play in that many games there. But yeah, that number, I don't know if I could get to it. And Washington is interesting because I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a really good quarterback. Are we doing season-ending awards?
Let's save it. Save it.
We'll save it. Okay,
Yeah,
because
save it.
he's a guy I'd consider there. But in the end, for me, it's I actually parlayed the Eagles, the Chiefs, and another NFC team that we'll go over there. But I think it's pretty well. I feel pretty confident saying it's going to be Philly this year.
I think you're right, but I'm kind of like Brandon. I don't have a ton of conviction. There's just too many. I think there is more questions with the Cowboys than there is the Eagles, and that's probably where I would end up. Um, the Cowboys do have a really good defense. Their corners are really good. Micah Parsons is obviously a maniac, and he'll be awesome again. And I think Mike Zimmer took over that defense to replace Dan Quinn. I think Zimmer's a really good defensive guy. A guy that we're all familiar with the Vikings, obviously. Um, yeah, I would probably hit the under on the Giants. I think they have a chance to be the worst team in the league. Um, I, I I think the shine has worn off a little bit. With their coach, but it's not really his fault. It's truly just the outcome of the talent that he has, especially at quarterback. I'm with you on Washington. I do like Quinn. He was a good coach for Atlanta. I think he runs a really like an adult serious program, and I think he's going to get that ship righted as early as this year. I wouldn't mind them at like 7-10, and I do like Jaden Daniels as well. but yeah, I'd probably hit the Eagles if I had to, but I think it's going to be it can be pretty tight between them and the Cowboys for the East.
And hey, one more thing here before speaking of the
Yeah.
Washington Commanders. I don't know about you. I cannot wait until Monday, maybe Tuesday, for the Magic Johnson tweet after a Commanders game on his analysis on what happened. I'm that's part of why I'm glad he's one of the owners of the Commanders, just for that reason.
Yeah, it'll be wow. Jaden Daniels threw for one touchdown and ran for another. Wow, he played a really solid game. Go Commanders. I mean, it's the most nothing tweets you will ever read. It's like informative mostly.
Sort of.
There's a bot that is programmed to subtweet him, and it's like called like what magic means, and all it says is what magic is trying to say, and it just repeats exactly what his tweet was.
So
I've seen it before, and I'm just it's awesome.
That alone's worth a follow.
Oh my god, it's so good. Anyways,
yeah, I forgot he had an ownership stake in the Commanders. It screams of like A-Rod having ownership stake in the Timberwolves. These ex-players that have a stake in a different sport that and not their hometown, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of odd. NFC South. We briefly mentioned the Falcons and buy or sell. The Falcons are, I would say, a reasonably heavy favorite to win the South at minus 130. Surprisingly, the Bucks, who really made a nice run in the playoffs, I mean, they challenged the Lions pretty seriously in the divisional round at plus 320, Saints at 4-1, and the lowly Panthers at 11-1. Johnny, I know you said you were fading the Falcons. Does that? I assume that means you're on the Bucks at plus 320 to win.
Yeah, I like the Bucks quite a bit to win that division. I don't love them as a team overall, but Baker Mayfield's he's a pretty good quarterback there, and I know Mike Evans is on the backside of his career, but they've got some guys, and they they made the playoffs and they went into Detroit and played a really good game. I mean, for the most part there in that NFC wildcard game there, but Baker is. I think he found his team. Why he was the number one pick, a number of years ago. It kind of figured out that's that's a team there. What was the over under on the wins for Tampa?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not give those. Over under in this division, the Saints are at 7.5. The Falcons are at 9.5. The Bucks at 7.5. And who did I skip? Oh, the Panthers 5.5.
Who the fuck cares about the Panthers? But no, I like the Bucks obviously over. I think they could, I think it might be one of those things though where maybe they'll go 9-8 and win that division. I think it's what happened last year though. And made it kind of interesting there. That's why they beat Philly, because they had that home game there. So it might be one of those again, but I don't hate that at all. And Tampa Bay is plus 145 to make the playoffs, yes, but plus 320 to win the division. If they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to win that division there. So I don't like the yes to make the playoffs, but at plus 320, that's a great number there. And I think I bet it a couple days ago because I was expecting it to be plus 175, something like that. So I think there's real good value there. So that's the team I like. The Falcons 9.5. Obviously, I think 9-8 is going to win that division, and they're not going to win it. So I'm going to go with the under there. The Saints are going to be solid. They're hard to play at home. They've got some talent, but they haven't really elevated it to where they're I think they're better than Tampa Bay, but so they're kind of a stay away team for me. And then Carolina, I just don't know. That's a dog trash organization right now. So it's just hard to say when they're managed so poorly, and I'm an expert, as is Brandon, at what poorly managed trash organizations are. So I think
don't bring
we
up
both
my
can kind of
trauma.
see it So it's even though it's 5.5, I don't know. I mean, they could luck into 6 wins, probably an under though.
Yeah. Brandon, you you were a little higher on the Falcons when we talked about buy or sell. So
I really am.
Yeah.
They finished 7-10 last year, so getting 2 more wins by adding Kirk Cousins to those skill players with a coach that actually might know how to use skill players. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely. And this division has the easiest schedule in the whole league. Saints have the easiest, Falcons have the second easiest, Panthers have the third easiest, and Tampa Bay's at 28. Like, they're all just sitting there. Like, so I think you're going to have 3 teams just like last year that are going to be around that 500 mark, depending on how they beat up on each other, and the rest of the league. I like the Falcons to take the division. I'd go. I wouldn't take the over on the 9.5 because they could win it at 9.5, just like Tampa Bay on a tiebreaker. I would take the under on the Panthers win total at 5.5. Saints. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna be the team that takes the biggest regression in this, and I think Tampa Bay, with losing their offensive coordinator, I think that's going to be. Or I think it was their offense or defensive coordinator. They lost one of their coordinator. Yeah, they lost their OC. And I think that's going to be I think that's going to make them take the hit back, which is going to give it to the Falcons. I did see, and this is how much I believe it. I think the change is going to be good for the Falcons to actually see the young talent they have. Bijan at 10 plus rushing touchdowns is at plus 200. I would make that bet.
I love Bijan. And I love that play. That almost seems too good to be true. Brandon, I'm going to one up you on a longer shot to lead the regular season in the NFL in touchdowns. I have Bijan Robinson at 16 to 1.
Real okay.
McCaffrey's the clear leader at 6 to 1, but I don't know. There's been a lot of miles on McCaffrey, and he also scores a lot by catching passes. I think a guy that might actually know how to use Bijan's talents, like I think he could be an absolute beast this year. So I love him in a lot of these categories, especially 10 rushing touchdowns at 2 to 1. That's pretty good value. I like it. As far as the Falcons' young talent, though, if we're including Kyle Pitts in that, I have an argument that he's just not very good.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it. I don't know if anyone's really seen it. And maybe again, this is a usage thing, how to properly use his talents to the best of his ability, but I just haven't seen
his rookie season. He balled out.
I think it was fine. He was drafted as a top 6-7 player, and he's not even a top 10 tight end.
Okay. Do I think it was good value? No. And I know something about taking first round tight ends not being good value. Okay. So I agree with you. Is it good value? But for not being invested in the team, do I think he has a potential to be a middle tier tight end? Yeah, is he ever going to live up to that draft status? Absolutely not. No way. But is he going to be a middle tier tight end that can block and catch you those passes and things? It, is he going to be maybe 700 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns? Both of those could go up or down a little bit, depending on the year. Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough.
If he's used correctly, and if you have a quarterback that can actually get them the ball. I mean, the last couple of years, it's been it's not Sam Darnold, but was it?
Well, you look once Minnesota acquired T.J. Hawkinson a season and a half ago, I mean, Cousins threw it to him all the time. So
Right.
if guys get open, Cousins is gonna hit them. I mean, that's been the problem. Is can Kyle Pitts get open? And can he run the routes? Is he a good route runner? Is he, does he do the little things to make sure a young quarterback can get him the ball? But having a veteran there, that could open up a whole new world that Kyle Pitts hasn't seen like that. And if you just look at it, like I said, with Hawkinson, how great he was in the set, after the trade deadline and after Detroit shipped him out, um, there could be something that's brewing there. So it's hard to say, but I mean, he certainly hasn't really done much, up until now.
And I think if you have a quarterback like Cousins that can get his receivers the ball, even if they're not wide open, and you have him hitting the receivers, and you have Bijan running the ball, defenses are going to forget about Pitts, and that's going to give him an opening. They're going to put their second, third, or they're going to put their third or fourth best cover guy on him because they're like, what's Pitts done? He doesn't do it. And now you start teaming him up against the third or fourth or fifth best pass defender. It's a better win.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And it should be mentioned. It should be mentioned that his quarterbacks have been really, really, really bad. It's been Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke. It's been a shit show, and so that's part of it as well. And also maybe this is a little personal bias because I drafted Kyle Pitts really high one year in fantasy football, and he fucked me over too. That's what most of this is really with all these guys is they've screwed me over.
Yeah. If you're taking Kyle Pitts anywhere like ahead of like round 8, this
right. I side with Johnny though. I like the Bucks for the value. I don't know if they'll actually win the division, but I think it's as good a value as any team that's not the favorite to win the division at what plus 320 is pretty good. Hammer the Panthers under. I just don't know how they win 6 games. Bryce Young is probably not that bad, but again, there's just not enough around him to really truly do much this season still. Boy, what an absolute fleecing Ryan Poles did of that organization. Oh my God. Love our GM. Love our GM. That's all I got. I hate this division. I hate the NFC South so much. Every year it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch. I don't enjoy watching those games. I will watch it if it's the only game on, of course, because it's football. I hate the NFC South so badly. There's an aesthetic to it that's displeasing. I can't tell you how strongly I feel about this division. Just all 4 teams. That's all.
Wow.
See, I like cheering for Baker. Like, I really do. Like,
I like Baker as a player. I do. I think he's fun,
and it makes me want to cheer for him. But yeah. I think Kurt going to the Falcons, I think I think they're going to win it clearly.
All right, 2 divisions left. We're gonna skip over our division and save that one for last. So we're gonna go to the West. This has to be a parlay piece for a division winner that I think Johnny may have been referring to, the 49ers at minus 195. The only other favorite that has worse odds is the Chiefs. The Rams are at plus 330. The Seahawks are at 7-1, and the Arizona Cardinals are at 13-1. Over unders, the Cardinals are at 6.5. The Rams are at 8.5. The Niners 11.5, and the Seahawks at 7.5 wins. Brandon, first to you. Any reason not to like the Niners to be dominant in this division still?
I mean, have they signed their left tackle yet?
Trent Williams?
Yeah. Or is he still sitting out? Is he still holding out?
I don't know what the situation is with their. I mean, he's the best left tackle in football, so he might be the MVP of the team. So
Right.
yeah.
But if he's not playing, if he's holding out, I mean, and my personal rule of thumb is players jumping into the season from a holdout, it rarely ends well for those players. The injury rate just seems extra high without the conditioning of camp. Yeah, they're gonna win it. I mean, it's not going to be close. I don't know that I wouldn't take the over under on either of that. Rams at 8.5. I think I would take. I'm interested to see what the Rams do with their new defensive coordinator. How much they switch moving away from Donald. They absolutely don't have their most, a generational talent anymore, but they have a new person running and organizing that defense with the talent, so he doesn't have to try to fill a Donald-sized hole because he's doing what he wants to do with the team. So I think that's going to be key to see what they can do, to see if they make the playoffs again this year. So I would take the over on the 8.5. Seahawks. I'm biased against them because they have been a foil for the last 4 years for the Detroit. So I'm not real happy with them. I would probably take. I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about how they ushered out the coach and that stuff. So I would probably take the under. And the Cardinals, I mean, can he stay healthy, and can Kyler stay healthy, and is Harrison going to make that much of a difference? Harrison Jr. going to make that much of a difference on that offense to give him points to get to 6.5? I can't. I think that's a push. I think because they're going to be right around that. I couldn't place a bet there, but
yeah. I checked into the Trent Williams situation. It's nothing definitive, but Deshaun Jackson, his good friend, let everyone know that everything's going to work out positively. So if that makes you feel better,
Deshaun Jackson,
yes, yes. So that's what.
Him saying it's going to work out well, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
Doesn't that make you feel better? Johnny, before I get to you, I have this Geno Smith thing with the Seahawks. I just think it's going to crash at some point, and I think it's going to be this season. The Bears took the Seahawks offensive coordinator.
Oh yeah,
there's just a lot going on there. I know they have really good receivers, and I actually their skill guys are really, really good, but it's still Geno Smith to me, and I can't shake that. I just can't shake it. So I think I'd take the under on the Seahawks. I really, really, really like the Rams. Again, I would take the over on the Rams. I think they're a playoff team. I like them at 9 or 10 wins. Honestly, I just think Sean McVay is a top 3-4 coach. Stafford, I think, is ready to give it kind of one last run here, and their receivers are great. Cooper Kupp is 2 years removed from winning the Triple Crown. I think he's healthy. He's not that old. He's 31, and Puka Nacua was unguardable in the playoff game against the Lions. So I love the receivers, and Kyron Williams is good, but they are not going to beat the Niners. The Niners are just too good. Shanahan's scheme is awesome. Their skill guys are the best, and Purdy is just perfect for what Shanahan asked him to do. I do think there's questions on the offensive line outside of Trent Williams. I actually don't think the offensive line is very good, but I think Shanahan's so good at scheming around, strengths and weaknesses that he will handle that just fine. So 49ers, I hit the over. I would say I like him as the 1 seed in the NFC, 13-4, something like that. Johnny.
I'm trying so hard to get to the Rams to win the division here, because that is a really good number there. Part of me says, okay, well, Trent Williams may not play for a certain amount of time, and then, generally that will just mean he gets more rest when he comes back. But and it's like, is McCaffrey going to put up those same numbers, and is he going to stay healthy there? And is the Brandon Ayuk situation going to be Is that going to be resolved, in any sort of time where they can, they can still win some ball games and whatnot. And Deebo Samuel, as dynamic as he is, he's been hurt from time to time. So it's like, I keep telling myself, it's like, you know what? Can I get to betting the Rams, because I think the Rams are a 9 or 10 win team. What kind of prevents me is Shanahan is Sean McVay's daddy when it comes to head matchups. I mean, he cannot beat he can't beat him. He just simply cannot beat him. And I think, he has that coaching advantage. As elite as Sean McVay is at head coaching in general and running a football team, Shanahan is all the better. And he's got his quarterback, and they've got the offensive line, and you're right, the depth on this 49er team is as good as any team in the National Football League. So part of me, that wasn't the team I was going to put in my parlay, because I wasn't sure if that was going to end up if the Niners could, I'm sorry, if the Rams could end up getting a couple sneaky wins here and there, and maybe they could win 11, maybe a 12th game in there, because I think Stafford appears to be healthy. That offensive line is solid, is not great, but solid. And they really could have, should have beat the Lions in that divisional game. I mean, they outplayed them. If it weren't for the insane crowd and, a couple key plays here and there, and, they got the benefit of the 50-50 calls, that of the flags that were thrown. So
that was a really good game. That was a great play.
It was the best game ever, because obviously the rooting interest. But if I was a neutral, if I was a neutral fan in that situation, yes, that was there. So minus 195, you'd have to put it in that parlay, because I think it's too juicy of a number. But I could make a case for the Rams at better than 3-1 odds to win that division, because I think this is going to be like Stafford's 1 to 2 last seasons that he's going to play. And I like Cooper Kupp a lot this year. Puka Nacua, though, as season long numbers kind of scare me. I kind of like the unders, because who knows how many games he's going to play. He's not going to play 17 games. I mean, is he, is with those, I think nagging knee injuries is what he's got. Is that going to sit him out for a certain amount of time? But, they've got a pretty stacked roster otherwise, and they're coached so well that they're just going to beat teams because of, strategies and whatnot there. So I guess I would say the Niners, but I don't love the Niners, and I'm kind of on the Rams, as a little bit of a surprise. It just happens that they've got just such an elite team that they're contending with in the division.
So the Niners aren't the last parlay piece of the division winners?
Don't think so. Let me look. No.
Christ.
Okay. Can I say something?
You absolutely can.
I have a gut feeling it's not about betting, but it's about perspective. Are the 49ers this generation's version of the early 90s Bills?
That's pretty good. I love these kind of comparisons. This is kind of like what I love to do. If they don't get over the hump, maybe this year, you might have a case. I mean, right.
Last year was what, year 3 or year 4 where they should have been?
Well, it's 2 Super Bowls they've lost now to the Chiefs, right? And arguably could have won both of them. I mean, the first Chiefs Super Bowl where Mahomes makes the plays. I mean, they had a 10-point lead in that game, and then last year they had to lead late and couldn't hold on. But yeah, that's a good call. I like it. Yeah.
Sorry, I've been thinking about
I think if they got someone else other than the Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes, I mean, unreal. Like the Chiefs had all the stuff going on with the Taylor Swift stuff, with the receivers, with Kadarius Toney, with who's the defensive lineman.
Bother the players.
But I understand that, but they were just not they weren't that great last year. They were just good. And it kind of gutted me when the Lions didn't end up making it to the Super Bowl, but the Niners were clearly better, and the Chiefs just somehow just said, you know what, we're not losing this game. And I'm convinced that that was the outcome, no matter who represented the NFC. But it's just that's a great comparison, though, is calling them the Bills, because it seems to be what it's like. Is this what their third or fourth Super Bowl that they appearance? So
Yeah.
Very interesting, though.
And they're always there, and just
Right.
haven't quite gotten it done. And they're, Shanahan gets lauded for a lot of things, the schemes and just his innovation, I guess, on offense. But I mean, going back to when he was the OC for the Falcons and the famous 28-3 game, there's just a lot of stuff now it's the scar tissue. It's like when golfers try to win majors and they can't, and it gets harder and harder. Gotta pull it back to golf somehow. But
Thank you.
Let's move on to the NFC North. Finally,
Them's fighting words.
Obviously, this is where our teams reside. I do think this is the best division in football. I really do. I think it's going to be incredibly tough this season to get wins in the division. The Lions are the favorites, of course, at plus 135. The Packers at plus 230. The Bears at plus 275, and the Vikings are now at plus 950. Over unders, the Bears are at 8.5. The Packers are at 9.5. The Lions are at 10.5, and the Vikings are at 6.5. All right, Johnny, NFC North, what do we got?
This one, I've gone both ways. I
know.
I had the Lions. Thank you. It's fine. It's 2024, man. I originally liked the Lions because it was like, they're going to come back, and it's like, well, Jordan Love looked really freaking good, and they're so well coached, and these receivers are only going to be better, and that number that they're at is great. And then it's like, but the Lions are, seemingly one of the best rosters in the National Football League. So I was going to put, I think the Lions end up winning the division. I think they're going to win 11 games. They're going to, I say that with a little hesitancy because they've had some injuries pop up here in training camp. None of them are going to be long-term, and none of them are going to go into the regular season, they're hoping. But the Green Bay Packers really scare me, and obviously the Bears are going to win. They're going to win a lot of games this year, and so it's not like a team can go 6-0 in the division and count on those 6 wins or 5-1. I mean, if you could win 4 games in the division, you're doing something there. So my parlay would probably be to add the Lions to that. But I'd also consider another bet, like I'm not going to bet the Packers because I'm not going to root for them whatsoever. But to hedge that parlay, because I'm confident in the other 2 legs, I'd consider a bet on Green Bay to end up winning the division as well. Because, even last year, Brandon and I lived it with. It was so hard to beat Nick Mullins and the Minnesota Vikings when they had no secondary, and he was just throwing it to Jefferson, and Jefferson was catching anything. I mean, he was going full Calvin Johnson, peak Calvin Johnson. I mean, dude was unstoppable. It was just it's so hard to win a division, and it's even harder to win the division 2 years in a row. And that's why, I don't know what the numbers are. I should have looked at it, but for a team to repeat as division champions, especially one like this with a younger core, and they don't have a lot of guys who've, but prior to this have won a bunch of divisions there. So I say that with some hesitancy, but I still think they're going to get 11 wins. I think Bay wins at least 10, and I was real big on the Bears over on the wins, but everybody is, and when the public is big on a certain side, I like to fade them with the NFL. So it's something tells me that the under on that one, but again, like the Bears and even the Vikings in some games, but the Bears are not going to be an easy out in any game. And you get them at Soldier Field, on a late November day when it's snowing sideways and blowing wind and stuff. Those are just hard games to win in the NFC North, and I think that's what they're going to do is they're going to beat the hell out of each other. So I'm hoping at least two teams can come out of it. I think they will just because there's a lot of really good teams in the North. So homer pick is the Lions, but I could make a huge case for Green Bay to end up winning this division, especially at that good of a number.
Okay. Brandon, Lions, Packers to win the division. I think you're going Lions, right?
I'm gonna go Lions, but I agree with John. I think the what is it? Was it plus 230?
Plus 230 for the Packers, yeah.
That's not a bad bet. I mean, because
No.
they're gonna get better. The one wrong injury and it derails the whole thing. So I think I'm gonna do the homer pick for the Lions. I think I'm not gonna bet the over under for the Lions on win total. I'm not gonna bet the over under for the Bears. I think the Pack. I might bet the over because I think both teams are going to be around 10, 11 wins. And it may even come to a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So I would probably go the over on Pack at 9.5. I think the Bears will be 8 or 9 wins. And then I think the Vikings. I think they're going to be. I can't take the under, but they could go anywhere from 4 wins to 8 wins because I think they have that puncher's chance with Jefferson to just take it to the house at any moment. I do like there is a Montgomery to get 1,000 rushing yards at 150. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Is that minus 150?
It was plus 150.
Okay. Pretty good then.
At plus 150, I think that's a safe bet. I think if you want to go bold with the Lions, can Gibbs repeat what he did with 10? Can he get 10 touchdowns and 5 receiving touchdowns?
Shit.
That's at 1,800 plus 1,800. Like if you want to try for the home run.
I love home runs, but that 15 total touchdowns in a timeshare.
Yeah, they love giving Montgomery the ball.
Yeah.
They do, but they've made an extra focus on getting Gibbs in the passing
That's
game.
true. They did give him the ball quite a bit.
They want that man in space as much as they can get it. And especially with the weak wide receiver end of the wide receiver thing, I think you're going to see Gibbs put out more and Montgomery in the backfield. You're going to see both of them in the backfield. I think they're going to put their best players on the field and just do what they can. I think 2 wide receivers, Laporta, Montgomery in the backfield, and Gibbs out wide as well. I think you're going to see that a lot. And can you handle the quickness? And Jared Goff's going to get it to the guys in space. And what are you going to do about it? So I think it's a home run hit. 10 rushing touchdowns just for that is plus 265, and I would absolutely take that. But for Gibbs, but yeah, I like that. Yeah, the Bears I think are really, really hyped. The question is can they pull it off? Do you believe in the head coach? Do you believe in what they did? They did lose their OC. So is their running game going to take a hit? The Packers having Jacobs from.
Can I just say losing the OC was a gift? I'm just going to
really okay. Okay, yeah. I don't know him well, like, but he did have good running games every year he was there, top 2.
He did, but Getsy would call 20 fucking wide receiver screens a game. I'm not even kidding you.
There it is.
And he wouldn't throw him to Darnell Mooney, the guy that had speed. He'd set it up for DJ or Valus Jones, or I mean, just dumb shit. Anyways, proceed.
But yeah, like the Packers with Jacobs from the Raiders, I think like that he can't make it through a full season. Like he's an amazing back, but making it through a full season's that's a big ask. So that's the one spot where I think the Pack are gonna like who do they have backing them up? What is it, Dylan still?
I think so.
And yeah, like that becomes a huge ask. I don't like the Vikings. Yeah, I think the Vikings are gonna have a puncher's chance to win a couple games they shouldn't, but it's
Yep. All right. The Lions. I'm in on the Lions to win the division. They have I don't even think you can argue it. They have the best offensive line in the league. I mean, they added Zeitler from the Ravens. I mean, they're just so good across the board. There's no weakness. I mean, Penasul's probably the best right tackle in football. Ragnow's maybe one of the three best centers in football. Their running backs are maybe. I mean, their running backs are really good. I love Montgomery going back to the Bears, and Gibbs has that ceiling to be a top 5 guy. And I think Laporta's already there. I would hit all of Laporta props that I could this year, especially touchdowns. And Goff is just he's transformed himself into right now he's a top 10 quarterback, and he's perfect for what the Lions need him to do. And the only weakness in offense is can Jamison Williams step up and be the guy that home run guy that they might need from time to time. And we've seen it in spurts. We've seen it at times where you're like, holy shit, like we in the Niners game in the NFC title game, right? But then he'll disappear. So yeah, having that stability as a second receiver would be the only question. I don't think you guys could disagree too much. And then defensively, drafting Terry and Arnold, getting Davis from the Bucks, and then Rakestraw in the second round. I mean,
Rakestraw
really focusing on a weakness and then really attacking it in free agency in the draft it was perfect. So I mean, they really should have cleared up a lot of their deficiencies on defense. So I really think they're just a much more complete team coming in this year. So I do like them over 10.5, 11-6, 12-5 feels right. I'm over on the Packers though too, because I just think they're one of those teams where you see they get in the playoffs, they beat the Cowboys. They should have beat the Niners on the road. They gave that one away, and I just think you're going to kind of see that momentum continue. I foreshadow. I hate to say it. I kind of like Jordan Love for MVP. I kind of do. I think he's the best value on the board when we talk about it. But so 10 wins feels pretty inevitable to me for the Packers, barring a major injury. The Vikings, whatever. I would just stay away from 6.5. That's really hard to diagnose. And the Bears, I'm just very cautiously optimistic. 8 or 9 wins feels right. I hope it's 9 because I think they could be fighting for the 7th seed with, say, the Cowboys, the Rams, or the Seahawks, maybe for the last spot. But the Bears have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I do have some questions still about the head coach. I have some questions about just being able to parlay all of this hype that they're receiving, Hard Knocks and the Hall of Fame game, and just everything that's been happening the last few weeks into wins. But man, there's so much excitement and there's so much skill that they have on offense now that you can just see them doing it more than one way. And I think their offensive line is solid enough. I think their secondary is one of the 3 or 4 best in football. Tying up Jalen Johnson, who I think's one of the best corners in the league. They have good safeties. Their depth at cornerback, their linebackers are solid. Montez Sweat was awesome last year. I mean, their only knock on defense is they don't have another significant pass rusher on the other side of him. So I hope it's 9 wins. I feel like 9 wins gives them a real shot. And then there's the Caleb factor, and I couldn't be more in on him if I tried. And
yeah, I think he's going to do your team well. Unfortunately,
it's such a vague statement.
Like, no, I think
he's going to serve them well.
He's good. He's good. Yeah, I think it's I from a player standpoint, I think it's an awesome move. From a Lions standpoint, I hate it.
Well, you know what's funny is that the Bears have kind of had the Lions number the last couple of years, anyways.
I mean,
because Fields just ran all over him.
Yeah. I mean, because with our personnel, we could not stop the option, like the running quarterback. Like that's been the one consistent.
I mean, we totally gave away the game at Detroit last year. I mean, totally gave it away.
Yeah.
That was sickening.
Yeah. No
Two
question.
baskets in the mail for you there.
But I do think we're for the Lions. I don't think it's getting enough talk. I don't know if it's getting enough talk nationally. I think their defensive line is going to crush it this year. Levi, that he's now finally had a full year of practice and is healthy, who was a second-round pick in this regime's first year, is showing like he's the guy they thought he was when they drafted him. And he was supposed to be the 3 technique, and McNeil was supposed to be the nose. And it looks like they have 2 pass rushing D tackles that are just like Levi is blowing up our offensive line has been doing it since the first day of camp. And I think him, and I actually think is it Rodriguez that's really just grown into the Sam. One of our I don't know. It's one of our linebackers has really grown into the actual Sam role, to where we actually because he's on the line as a rusher, and I think you're going to see our defense get better. It's going to make our corners look better and our coverage look better, but it's going to be defensive line. Like,
yeah,
I think it's going to be shot. I think that's going to win us games.
Well, I will say that the entire roster and just how well-rounded it has become the last 2-3 years has been pretty damn impressive. And I mean, Pro Bowlers everywhere and depth, and it's been really, really well done. And Campbell is really built the culture there, and the guys completely buy into the crazy shit he says, like biting ankles and weird shit like that. I mean, everything just seems to have worked out. His aggressiveness, I mean, it doesn't always work out, but the guys, they buy in no matter what. And you just you love that. You guys have the coach that right now everyone wants, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's weird. We've never had that.
I know, it's amazing.
But Phil, in the NFC Championship game, would you have kicked the field goal?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have too.
Yes. Like I said, it doesn't always work out, but he's always got good reasoning and explanations on the why. I don't always agree with it, but he owns it. He lives with it, and I respect that about him. I mean, it's like playing Madden. Sometimes is what his coaching style is. I'll be like, holy shit, he's going for it. I wouldn't even go for it in Madden. You know what I mean? Or he's going for 2 against the Cowboys. Like, just ballsy stuff. You love it as a fan, and the players seem to love it. And again, this is where we talk about that window. The window, it is open for the Lions. Now you just don't know how long these things run, so you really got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you know? and that's the issue.
All right, I know we're running up against the clock here, so 2 more categories left. MVP. I'm just going to name the top 8 in the odds. Mahomes at +475, Josh Allen at 8.5, CJ Stroud at 8.5 to 1, Joe Burrow +900, Jordan Love at 14 to 1. Also, Jalen Hurts at 14-1, Rodgers at 16, Dak at 18, and then also Lamar and Brock Purdy are at 18. Johnny, I mentioned Jordan Love. He's my only play that I really, really like on the board. Although you really can't go wrong with just going chalk and betting Pat Mahomes at plus 475 because, like we talk about in golf, Scotty Scheffler, when he's about similar odds to win a golf tournament, and halfway through the tournament, he's like plus 100. So maybe halfway through the season, Pat Mahomes might be plus 100. So maybe 475 isn't bad.
No, and you could, the way I look at it is typically, yeah, that's not a good bet at plus 475. But you know what? They're with them not having all the weapons on offense and everything like that. A lot of times they vote the MVP based on the recency bias and how well a player plays in the last 6, 8, 10 weeks of the season there. So if they start out 5-3, 4-3, something like that, and then he turns it on, it ends up being a good bet because by week 15 he's going to be minus 500 there. But I don't think I know he doesn't care about that award, so I'm not sure if I really love the bet, especially at that bad of a number there. I wish CJ Stroud was closer to 10-1, but we talk about the golf bets, you just got to bet guys you think you're going to win the award at this point because some of these guys are so good there. But Stroud is going to be on my card. Didn't really consider Love because I think his name was so high up on the list there, but that's interesting there. And I think if Philly can get the 1 seed, then I like Jalen Hurts at 14-1 because I do expect a bounce back season there. So I think he can. I don't know if he'll have the numbers though to get that MVP consideration, but he's the guy I just like at better than 10-1.
Brandon, who wins MVP?
I'm going to go with Stroud.
Okay.
I think he's going to build off the rookie hype and he's going to ball out. And with the weapons around him and what he's going to do, I think he's going to
that makes a lot of sense, right? Just the natural progression, and we think they're going to have a great season. And yeah,
and if I even think, and to be consistent, I think if Diggs is going to have that type of year, Stroud's going to have an MVP year. So.
And we know that the MVP also is usually it has some tied to team success, and usually the teams that are 1 seeds or 2 seeds are most likely the quarterbacks of those teams are going to win the MVP. So that makes sense. Before we talk about Super Bowl odds, Johnny, did you want to touch on offensive rookie of the year? Caleb's the favorite at plus 135, Jaden Daniels plus 475, and then it's Harrison, Nix, Neighbors.
Yeah, I just like the number that Jaden Daniels is at, and I've read some articles coming out of the Commanders camp that a lot of people are saying that he looks kind of like that real deal type player. I mean, he's going to have his fair share of interceptions and everything like that. Caleb is the best quarterback in that draft, but at plus 135 is not an in-play bet there. So plus 475 is obviously a lot better number there, but I think I'm expecting it to be after season 1, him and Caleb to have more of an equal rookie season as far as the statistics go. I'm not talking about wins or anything like that, but as far as like the passing yards and the touchdowns and rushing and whatnot, I like that value at plus 475 a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of good players down the board, but I generally like the quarterbacks here because they've got the ball in their hands and they control it and they put up the numbers, and that's what these awards are for. These offensive awards are usually for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I can envision Neighbors just having an insane season, no matter who his quarterback is, as long as he stays healthy. At 11-1, it's kind of fun, but it's most likely going to be Caleb or Daniels. It feels like.
Yeah.
All right, Super Bowl odds, and then we're gonna call it. If I can find them here. Kansas City Chiefs at 5-1. Maybe just the most consistent bet in sports at this point. The Chiefs and Scotty Scheffler. Niners at 6-1, Ravens at 10, Lions at 12, Bengals 13, Eagles 15, Bills 15, Texans 16, Packers at 19. I'll just again make the case that I don't really think the Chiefs are going to win 3 in a row, but I also think if you want to be in the arena with a chance in the playoffs, taking the Chiefs now at 5-1 and then maybe a hedge later is still probably it's probably the right play. And it's probably the right play for the next 4 or 5 seasons. So that's where I'm at.
That's a great call there. Future bets are not necessarily made to pick the winner. Yes, you want to pick the winner because it plays the best odds. But what you want to do is you want as much skin in the game late in the season as possible. So if you think the Chiefs are going to, make it to the Super Bowl, bet them now, and then you can hedge the other team, which will likely not be favored, and you could get plus odds on both. So it's not necessarily teams that you think, like I said, are going to win it, but teams that you think you can get there because you can just make incredible hedge opportunities. Michigan football last year was a perfect example. They were like 10-1 or something like that. They were a great buy-in because all they had to do was beat Ohio State at the end of the season there, and then they were making the playoffs, and they end up running it, and then you could always have a great hedge opportunity. When in the college football playoffs. So, are we going to reveal who we think are going to win at the very, very, very end of this?
We're at the end. Go for it.
Okay. So I don't like the Chiefs. I'm not going to bet them. I'm not going to put that hedge. I just think it's just 3 in a row is going to be tough. Getting the 3 Super Bowls in a row is going to be tough too. Even though I said don't bet against Pat Mahomes, I'm not going to bet them there. I like the Bengals at 13-1. I talked about them earlier. Joe Burrow is going to be back. Joe Burrow is going to be good. I like him to come out of the AFC. Teams out of the NFC is going to be a little bit tougher because I think that playoff is going to be a different gauntlet there. I still don't think San Francisco, and I don't like them at 6-1 odds there. I've got 2 teams that I bet on is the Eagles at 15-1 and Lions at 12-1. I think those are both really good matchups there. Cincinnati versus Detroit in the Super Bowl is currently plus 5,000 odds.
Those are my favorite
Cincinnati
bets.
in the plus 6,000 odds. Well, you can say it too if you want to there. I'm not going to actually pick a winner because I don't want to jinx it or anything like that, because I don't want to put it out there on who I think is actually going to end up winning the Super Bowl. So with that being said,
Jesus Christ.
I just hope both teams have fun.
All right, Brandon, who's winning the Super Bowl?
I'm not betting against Pat Mahomes. Are you kidding me?
It's inevitable.
Right.
It's inevitable.
I've seen greatness on the rise. I remember this, oh, who are they? And then oh no, they're just rolling people. When you watch a guy throw a behind the back pass at his receiver because he's pissed at him, I don't care that it was the second team. No.
Can I give a little side? So that night was last Saturday. Yeah, last Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
So my oldest son, who's 12, he's playing organized football, and so we went out in the yard. We were passing, and by the way, he's like 5'9" now. He's huge, and but we were trying the behind the back pass. That's so hard. It was hurting my rib cage to even get it around. The fact that he did that in the game it's just not human. So
in football pads.
Yeah,
in football pads.
It's just
in rib cage protectors. Yes,
it's just too effortless. That was unreal. All right, so you like the Chiefs?
I'm not betting against them.
Sure.
No. Yeah. If I'm gonna place a bet, yeah, I would. With the odds you gave, I think if you want to win money, the Chiefs are the best bet. Would you say 5,000 to 1, John, or plus 5,000 for
Bengals,
Bengals.
Lions. Doesn't matter who wins. Bengals versus Lions was plus 5,000.
Oh shit! Like, yeah, like even a $10 bet's gonna pay.
$10 bet to win at $500.
Like I'd put $10 on that. Fuck. But pardon language. But who do I think is gonna be there? I
Just do it.
no, I think we make it to I think the Lions make it to the NFC Championship team, but I don't think they make it past that. I think it's either going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be someone that comes out of the field. I think the NFC is too close at the top. I think there's too much. I think there's too little that divides the top teams.
I think there's only 3 teams that can make it out of the NFC.
Niners, Lions, and who?
Packers.
Yeah.
I'm not in the Eagles camp. I'm not in the Eagles.
No Eagles.
I'm not in the Eagles camp. No.
Yeah, I don't have I think they get rolled if they make it, but if the cards fall right, yeah, but I don't trust it.
Yeah. Here's what I like while you're looking at that.
I think the Rams can make it in the playoffs again. And I think if they get on a roll, if their cards drop right, I think they're still in the mix.
I don't disagree. I think there is a path for the Rams. I have a hard time getting past those top 3 teams in my mind. I think they're on that next echelon. From the AFC, I like the Chiefs at plus 500, but I do weirdly like the Jets at 20 to 1. I don't know why I keep coming back to the Jets at 20, as sort of the longer shot play. Who do I think is going to win? I think the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl this year. What are some fun name the finalists bet that I like? I mean, it's really goofy, kind of, but Jets Packers at 110 to 1.
You just wanted to hurt us. That's all you wanted to do was to hurt us. You wanted to hurt us by saying that. That's all you wanted.
No,
Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in the Super Bowl.
I love the long.
Are you
numbers.
A masochist?
No, he's a Bears fan. Same thing.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
110 to 1 for the Jets and the Packers to meet in the Super Bowl. I'm gonna put a couple bucks on it because
God.
I just think it's fun, and I could envision both getting there. What's more realistic is kind of staying on the Jets train. Jets Niners at 40 to 1. I'll probably do that too. So this Jets thing I like. I'm sure it will end disastrously in some way because it's the Jets as well. But that's kind of the path I'm on. But I do think the Niners are going to win it this year. I think they finally get it done.
Hard to disagree, but that's cool. That's good.
And I'm like, there's a dumpster fire there, and they ain't gonna do it. It's in their head. It is in their head.
You know what I'm most excited about is YouTube TV announcing that you can select the 4 games you want in the
quad box.
The quad box. Yeah, we just call it the quad box. Yeah. I mean, that's so great. Yeah. It's
finally.
I can't even describe how elite that is going to be on Sunday afternoon. Just picking the games you want in that setup. Yep. It's spectacular. So thank you, YouTube TV, for taking this over, making everyone's life wonderful. It's so exciting. This has officially been the longest podcast we have done in almost 200 episodes. If you're still listening, what are you doing?
Thanks for staying with us.
But also thank you. And to both of you, thank you for also
intend your puns, you cowards. Yeah.
So with
We're
that,
off the rails.
with that, Johnny, Brandon, really appreciate the 2 hours here talking
It was
football.
fabulous, sir.
But this was a good one. We've officially gone as in depth as maybe we could have. Maybe not with the NFC North. We could probably still be talking about that. But good preview, good discussion. Looking forward to watching football and talking football with you guys throughout the season. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Johnny. Thank you.
Fuck the Bears.
All right. Thanks for listening to Your Best Bets. NFL preview will be up on YouTube, and hopefully we'll be talking football throughout the season. So enjoy the season ahead. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.